Hi, welcome back to Castle and Cole Kitchen. My name is Janelle and today we are baking Kouign Amann. So what is a Kouign Amann? Kouign Amann is basically a sweet croissant. It's buttery, sweet, it has a flaky center, and it has a crunchy caramelized crust. Originating in the coastal region of France called Brittany, Kouign Amann translates to butter cake. It's not French, it's actually from Breton, and it's more in common with the Welsh language. So how we make our Kouign Amann dough in the shop is very different. We don't use normal croissant dough recipe. We only knead it for 5 minutes, so it's a very soft dough. And we do 3 single folds. On our last fold, we add in sugar. We bake them in molds coated with butter and sugar. And before they go in the oven, they get garnished with flaky sea salt and more sugar. So they're really popular here at the shop and they're the #1 item to sell out. We also do seasonal fillings. So during summer months, we have a strawberry, roasted corn, and rhubarb filling. And during the winter months, we have the dulce de leche and the chocolate filling. So the ingredients are really simple. We have all-purpose flour, warm water, fresh yeast, and salt. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the water in first and then combine the flour, yeast, and the salt, and we're just going to knead it for 5 minutes in the mixing bowl. So this dough has been kneaded for 5 minutes, and what we're going to do now is we're going to cover it, let it sit in room temperature for an hour, and then we're gonna put it in the fridge and let it rest overnight. So now that we're letting our dough rest, we are going to prep our trays. We like to prep our trays the night before just because it takes a really long time prepping them, especially in the morning and depending on the size of Kouign Amann batch we're doing. All we need is a tray, butter, and sugar. There's a specific way of putting on the butter and the sugar. We wanna coat the parchment really nice and light. We don't want to put too much butter or too much sugar. So when we put too much butter and less sugar on the tray, what happens is it'll get really oily and it won't caramelize. And if we do put too much sugar and less butter, the sugar will just crystallize. And when we put on our sugar, I always like to tell people creme brulee topping. So you don't want it too thick. You want to be able to see your butter streaks. And that's how we know that there's an even measurement of butter and sugar. So now we're going to do the same thing with the molds. Not really picky on how thick the butter coating is. I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving any gaps. So all of the molds inside are coated with butter. So now that it's coated in butter, we're just gonna dip it in our sugar and place it on the tray. So I have a dough here that's been chilled overnight. When we make Kouign Amann, we do them first thing in the morning. We never make them the night before and then take them out of the fridge and let it proof. We find it that it becomes more dense when it bakes in the oven because we believe it's the sugar. So we like to do everything fresh the morning of. So we have the dough and we have our barrage. We use regular butter, we don't use high fat, and we mix the butter with flour to make it more pliable. So what we're going to do is I have some flour. We're going to lock in our barrage. So we have our dough on the counter, still nice and cold. You want to put flour so it doesn't stick. It's a really soft dough. We don't use cold butter, so we don't take it out of the fridge the morning. We would take it out the night before. Make it into a nice square. Roll out the corners. And we dust off extra flour that's on the dough. We then take our barrage, and we place it on top. So now we are going to lock it in. Put a little bit more flour on top and below. We're just going to press it down. So once we've pushed down the dough, we can start laminating it. So we're going to do our first 2 single folds. Now we're going to do our 3rd fold. More sugar on top. Now we're going to sheet it for the last time and then cut it. And we are going to cut it into squares. Wait 2 seconds. So now that it's on the counter, we're just going to fluff it a bit. Fluff it. Let it relax a bit. Gonna measure. So then we're going to coat the dough with more sugar before folding them. Once again, really nice creme brulee topping, not too thick. So now that the dough has been folded, it's ready to go in the molds. So now that the dough are in their molds, they are ready to go in the proofer, and we usually proof them for 3 hours before being baked for 20 minutes. So our dough has been proofing for 3 hours now. They are looking good. They have a really good rise. So now we are ready to garnish them with sugar and flaky sea salt. We are now ready to put them in the oven. We bake them for 20 minutes, well, less than 20 minutes. We actually bake them for 9 minutes at 385, and then we lower it down to 375 and bake them for another 9 minutes. They should have a really nice caramelized color by the end of it. That's it. Hey. So these Kouign Amann, they're best eaten the day of. A few hours after they're baked is even better. If you're eating them the next day, the Kouign Amann gets much softer because the sugar tends to break down. It'll taste staler, and the butter, obviously, it solidifies. So they won't be as flaky, and they will be a little bit harder to eat. There are a couple things that we look at after the Kouign Amann has been baked. The first thing would be the color. We want to make sure that they are even in color all the way around. They are nice and caramelized all the way around. And the second would be the caramel at the bottom of the Kouign Amann. So we did talk about how much sugar and butter we should put on the tray. This is a nice looking caramel, so we did put an equal amount of butter and sugar on the tray to make a caramel like this. And the third would be the crunch. Let me find another one. Oh my gosh. And the last thing that we look at is the flakiness. We want it to be really nice and soft, not too dense. We are going to open one later to see how nice and airy our Kouign Amann is, and that way, the airier the better. That's how we can be able to fill them seasonally, and that's pretty much it. That's all we look forward to, or look for when. The filling we are doing here at the shop right now is Ontario strawberries. So we fill the Kouign Amann with Ontario strawberry diplomat and strawberry jam. We fill them to order, so they're not sitting, so they're very fresh and very cold and refreshing. So we puncture a hole right in the middle. We take our strawberry diplomat, give it a squeeze a couple times. And then we take our strawberry jam, just a nice generous squeeze. It's really full, and now I'm gonna show you how it looks inside. We're gonna cut into it. Well, thanks for joining me in making the Kouign Amann here at the shop. I hope that you've enjoyed watching and learned a little bit about how we make our Kouign Amann here. If you have any questions, comments, leave them down in the comment section. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.